Hey there, and welcome back to another Miraculous Ladybug Season 6 video, and today we're going to be talking about the latest episode to drop, The Dark Castle. Season 6 has been on a roll this year with so many top tier episodes on offer. We've seen a consistent push towards having every episode feel significant in its own way, whether this through big plot developments, character progression, or even just doing something that we haven't seen before. It's all very exciting and interesting, and after the low point that was the Season 5 finale, I think they've managed to well and truly bounce back in pretty much every respect. This in turn brings us to The Dark Castle, which as a whole is one of those low stakes episodes which is largely standalone and self-contained. There's a big moment right there at the end, but ultimately, it's not having a huge impact on the wider story or even on most of the character arcs. However, it's one of those episodes that just feels so different and structured to what we've gotten before, and also has one of the coolest action sequences the show's ever had, so it still manages to stand out within this very strong season. With all that being said though, it's time to jump into things. We start off the episode at the school where Jalil's there looking pretty upset. So why is he here again? Was he not an actual professional historian when he was introduced in the Pharaoh? Is he not an adult? Why the hell is he just chilling in the school cafeteria? I mean, I guess maybe he works there now, but surely it's still a little strange for him to be getting first named from the students, hanging out with them during lunch, and then also spending time with them outside of school hours, right? It just doesn't make much sense to me. Marinette and Adrian ask him what's wrong, and he replies that he misses Alex because it's almost her birthday. When one of the new characters asks who she is, the whole friend group chimes in to talk about her and how important and special she is. How she's holding on to the rabbit Miraculous and how she's responsible for ensuring that the new butterfly user can't go back in time and stop Ladybug from existing in the future. It's a very important job after all. I will say this though, the more I think about it, the more wild it is that she is essentially banished from her own time. Feels a bit harsh. Why was this even something they did? It was to hide the Miraculous from Monarch back in Season 5, but couldn't they have just given it to Alex secretly and told her not to use it and to keep her identity a secret just like Ladybug and Cat Noir do? I mean, the only reason she's now at risk of Chrysalis ever going after her is because they publicly announced that she was going to do this. If they kept it a secret, she would have been fine, like that time they faked out Monarch into thinking that Alia was no longer the fox wielder to protect her family. Oh well, it's too late now. From a meta perspective, it's clearly a power that's a little too strong for the show and could throw things out of whack, so they decided to bench it unless the episode is straight up built around the concept, just like this one. They all talk about how much it sucks that she can't be there to celebrate her birthday, and of course it's revealed that Alex is watching them from the burrow, missing them too. Here, she gets a message from Ladybug calling her to meet up. I do have a question about that, to tell you the truth. How does this all work to begin with? Does Alex's Miraculous keep track of what her home time is? So say Ladybug wants to call her, does the call connect to a specific Alex? Does it track that if one day passes in Alex time, then she's linked to one day passing in her own time in Paris? Do you get what I'm trying to ask? That's the problem with time travel, isn't it? It kind of messes with your mind. So we go into the intro theme, and when we return to the episode, it's a completely different scene. We see Mr. Django get out of a taxi in front of the Louvre, and he makes his way inside to confront Alex's dad, who is in the midst of getting ready to make a birthday message video to be uploaded to social media so that she can see it. However, before he can do so, Django walks in blasting his bugle, so already a bit of a dick move there, just polluting the air out of nowhere. He then walks up to this guy who's very clearly busy, and so that's already a bit more rude, and he just makes himself look like a massive idiot, to tell you the truth. He tells him that since he hasn't responded to his many missives, he's been forced to come here to present them in person. He unfurls this giant scroll of demands and talks about how the Louvre was once the glorious home of kings, but is now polluted by the glass pyramid. Okay, first up, when somebody dodges what you claim are multiple missives, there is a reason for that. Get the hint. Secondly, thinking that anybody is going to take a French monarchist seriously in the current year shows a grand level of delusion. Thirdly, he tried to use his noble title as some sort of measure of his authority, but he comes across as pompous and ridiculous. And then, finally, what does he actually think this guy's going to do about his issues to begin with? He comes into the museum to demand the director removes the pyramid, but that's not his choice. He's the director of the museum. He's not the owner. He doesn't own the buildings. He doesn't have the right to make any of those changes. The French government owns the buildings, and the museum is in turn a public institution. I'm starting to think Paris is far better off not electing this guy to be mayor, even if Andre was the only other option at the time. This dude's delusional. He storms off, and in a fun little gag, his scroll gets caught on a seat as he passes by, and apparently that thing has some real structural integrity because it drags the chair along no problem. What's it even made of? Plus, how strong is this guy to seemingly not even notice and to not even lose a step as he pulls it along? They end up filming the video and Marinette goes back to her room to edit it together, I guess. She isn't happy though, because she knows that Alex is going to watch it all alone and still not get to see anybody. See, this is the thing, right? Just because the rabbit Miraculous is super powerful, it doesn't mean she can't ever visit. Lila is not omnipotent. If you make surprise visits secretly into people's houses like Marinette does when she has the rabbit Miraculous, it would be a-okay. Lila wouldn't be able to prepare an ambush for this. It feels like the characters in this show make it harder than it needs to be. Also, do we think that Bunnix has looked into the future to see who the butterfly user actually is? or is she being good? Because it feels like she's not meant to intervene in that way, but then she did intervene to stop Lila winning in Miraculous London. It's all very confusing, isn't it? Marinette's brooding, trying to think of an idea since she feels guilty for not getting the butterfly Miraculous in the first place. And in hindsight, why not use the rabbit Miraculous to retroactively get the butterfly Miraculous during the events of Miraculous London? I mean, Bunnix was already intervening to stop Lila and to help Marinette during the battle, so why not also watch the ending of the Big Hawk Moth saga, see where the Miraculous drops, and scoop it up into a portal? They could have ended all of this before it properly began. I think that at this stage we just have to mostly ignore the rabbit Miraculous for the most part because it overcomplicates things and creates a lot of plot holes. I mean, think about how many bunny users could be out there, since that's the nature of time travel. We see it in this very episode. A Marinette from the future appears from her burrow before present Marinette goes into a separate burrow, which is also outside of time, but is also technically happening in the past for that other Ladybug that she just spoke to, despite both burrows not existing within time at all. My brain. But yes, there would be infinite users that we could come across in the series if they ever wanted to do that. We only ever see Alex, but then also Marinette in this episode, but theoretically, there could be so many more that turn up, especially if they explore time or are hunting a villain. That actually might be an interesting episode concept one day. Speaking of which, a portal to the burrow opens and within is the future bunny bug, who tells her that her past self has an idea of how to celebrate Alex's birthday, which in turn creates a paradox. After all, Marinette from the future is both lying and telling the truth here. On the one hand, she does figure it out herself given that she gives the idea to her past self. So it's technically true, but at the same time, she doesn't actually think of it. She gets told it. But the only way she can tell her past self is if she was therefore told by somebody else. Since, like I said, she didn't think of this idea, which means that we come to an infinite loop where the idea was magically created out of nowhere, despite Marinette never thinking of it. My brain! Tiki mentions that this is a potentially terrible idea, but hey, who listens to Tiki these days? She's only a billion years old, thinks Marinette. I'm the Guardian. And so she summons Alex and enters the burrow to wish her a happy birthday before telling her the idea. Of course, Alex, being both experienced and responsible, is at first a little hesitant because she thinks that Marinette might try to alter the timeline, which I guess could have unforeseen consequences. Eventually, she gives in when Marinette reassures her, and off she goes whilst Marinette powers up into Bunnybug, whose suit design is really cool, although I think that in all the bunny suits, the ears kind of detract from it. I think this would have been a top tier suit if they included everything with that color scheme, but no ears. I mean, it's not terrible, it's not great. Alex makes her way down to the park to enjoy her party with all her friends, except for Marinette, of course, with Marinette monitoring things from the burrow, all excited that Alex is finally going to have some fun. Once she realizes that it's all going smoothly, she goes off to give herself the idea, whilst Alex gets to reunite with her friends, although Aglaé brings up that Marinette's missing from the gathering, which forces her to text Alia with the excuse of being sick. Adrian tries to go and see her, but Alia throws him off the scent, and Marinette almost blows her cover by thinking about giving him a time travel kiss. So much for not messing with the timeline. I'll be honest here, she should have been even sneakier. She should have played around more with the timeline so that another version of herself could be chilling in the burrow while she attends the party. By not doing so, it actually exposes her, like we see at the end of the episode. Anyway, she thinks that she shouldn't mess with the timeline, and yet she watches and sees that things are not playing out the way she wants them to go. She wants it to be perfect, and by God, it will be. She notices that Alex's dad gets a call, which causes him to put down his slice of cake, which is then knocked by a miskicked football right into Jalil. He, of course, is upset and walks off to get changed because he's now filthy, which is not what Marinette wants. She wants Alex to be able to spend her birthday with her whole family. Also, side note, what the hell is wrong with Django? He is seriously demanding that they burn Liberty Leading the People, a painting that is nearly 200 years old. He wants it destroyed. Yuck. Chuck the whole man away, please. Of course, not heeding the warnings to not change things up, Marinette first prevents Jalil getting splattered, but she can't help but keep watching and keep interfering. The next time is having a look at the cake they've gotten for Alex, but as they're admiring it, a bird quite literally shits all over it. I have to admit, I laughed longer at this scene than I probably should have. It just got me. However, it seems that it's destiny for something to go wrong at this party, as after Marinette prevents the cake getting an extra special dollop of cream, Nathaniel trips over while trying to present the cake and sends it flying all over Jalil. How unlucky can this guy be? Poor bugger. Marinette, of course, goes back in time, but unlike the first two changes, which seemingly didn't have major ripple effects, at least as far as she could see, by moving the uneaten pudding, or whatever that's meant to be, Marinette accidentally kicks off the apocalypse. Once again, I found this to be extremely funny. It was so absurdly over the top and out of nowhere and really brutal. That's another thing I've noticed this season, to tell you the truth. The jokes are just funnier. The humor hits more. It's a very easy watch. Also, about that apocalypse, I'm actually surprised she didn't go back and just reverse all her actions and let things play out as they were originally supposed to. After you see what happens for the most innocuous of circumstances, you'd probably never want to interfere again. I guess that's maybe why Alex never intervenes unless the world's ending. She knows it's not worth the risk. Back to the main story. Jalil is of course upset because the party was meant to be perfect, but it wasn't to be. Alex comes over and checks the envelope he's holding and finds a picture of herself as a baby, with Jalil feeding her. Okay, so he was eating in the school cafeteria in the first scene, but here she's clearly what, 1 or something? He in turn looks about the age that the students are now. So how old is this guy, and why is he hanging out at the school? I pray he is a teacher, otherwise I feel sorry for their dad. Maybe if you spend more time studying and less time deciphering ancient Egyptian scrolls and buying into monarch conspiracy theories, you could have graduated before age 30. If he's a teacher though, I don't know, stop hanging out with the kids. As all of this is going down, the dad gets another call from you-know-who and lets him have it this time, telling him that if he doesn't stop harassing him, he'll have him banned from the Louvre. All of this rejection towards his grand plans for the restoration of the monarchy and nobility drive him to being akumatized off-screen, which leaves Marinette in a bind. She needs to keep the rabbit Miraculous out of the fight for some reason. I don't know why, but surely she could have just not used the powers if it's that big a deal. She's pretty much never lost her earrings to a villain, so there's no reason to think she'd lose this either, but yeah, you do you, kid. Also, can't she just keep it in her bedroom, like under her bed? Master Fu just used to keep it in the box. It didn't have to stay in the burrow all the time. Nevertheless, she goes forward in time to find a version of herself to become Bunnix, while she calls on Cat Noir to go and face the villain. Adrian's excuse to get away is that he's going to go get some towels to clean up Jalil, but instead, he rather obviously hides behind the merry-go-round, powers up quite loudly, and then power poles away in plain view. He wasn't even trying to be discreet with that one. They link up and arrive at the Louvre, where a bunch of suits of armor are dismantling the pyramid at the front. They leap in, beat them up, but don't find any Akumas because they're just henchmen. The main event's about to begin. They go down into the Louvre in search of him, and yet he's nowhere to be found. Just a disembodied voice ranting and raving about how democracy sucks and that the monarchy is the way to go. Bit of a yikes moment, as I suspect he's not thinking about constitutional monarchy. Our heroes fight their way through the dark hallways and reach a throne room, which is then revealed to be a carefully planned trap as the whole museum begins to collapse. I swear to God, whoever designed the flow of this whole sequence of them going through the dark corridors fighting, then escaping the collapsing tunnels, only to come face to face with the villain who is a giant castle, is a genius! This whole sequence felt right out of a video game to me. The lead-in, the introduction of the giant complete with boss music, then just the way it's all cut together, perfection! This is probably some of my favourite action of the entire season, to tell you the truth. It was so gripping. I particularly love when they entered the first-person perspective for Ladybug running across the castle. The Akuma's inside a flag, but the only problem is that Dark Castle can move the flag somewhere else whenever they get close. So it takes a good long while to take him down. Also, based on the quotes, this guy is planning on straight up executing them, by the way, which is unhinged even for an akumatized villain. Good God, I can't believe that Mayor Bourgeois is looking so much better in comparison to this guy now. Also, I love that Ladybug doesn't call in any backup because she wants Alex to enjoy her birthday party. But in reality, surely there is zero chance that nobody wouldn't be hearing or seeing this. This thing is standing way above the top of the buildings, is stomping around and fighting. This would be shaking the entire city, and they'd all just be staring in shock and horror. After all, it's not often you see Ladybug and Cat Noir brawling through Paris with an evil version of the Louvre. They're struggling to land a hit, and so Ladybug uses her lucky charm and gets some smoked sausage and lattice string. This, I guess, reminds her that she is super strong and has a pretty much unbreakable yo-yo string, so she ties him up and pulls to cut him into pieces and instantly release the Akuma. The absolute state of Marinette this episode when 1, she accidentally apocalypses the world when she doesn't listen to the rules of the bunny, despite quite literally being the guardian of the Zodiac box. Then 2, being unable to think of the very obvious strategy to use against this guy. Come on, Ladybug. They de-akumatize this fool, and he is still ranting about how the glass pyramid is an eyesore and an insult to French monarchy until Ladybug somehow convinces him it's good because the pyramids were a symbol of Egyptian monarchy. Well, the old pharaohs at the very least. The more recent sultans and kings of the Muhammad Ali dynasty were buried in mosques, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, this is proof that this guy is just a bootlicker, eager to be ruled over by anybody so long as they're royal. At least be strong in your French convictions, you fool! Ladybug heads back to the burrow, and I'm pretty sure that they forgot to record a voice line for Marinette saying counterclockwise in the English dub because I swear they used Alex's voice line that she'd said earlier on in the episode. Here we get some juicy plot developments. Lila back in her base is writing in her books about how she wasn't there, but she needs to check again and again and again to be sure. So obviously this is meant to make you think about the party and make you realize that Lila was either there or watching from somewhere and notice that Marinette didn't attend it. Thus, it seems clear that she's puzzling out that she's Ladybug and has some extreme suspicions. Things are heating up. I'm curious to see what direction they take this, but I think it's starting to become clear that Lila has infiltrated their group somehow. But the question is, who is she? Where is she? How? Ladybug wraps up things with Alex, who reassures her that she's all good being Bunnix. This is what she was meant to do. She then exchanges cute voice messages with Adrian and meets up with her past self so she can watch over the Rabbit Miraculous whilst Ladybug fights the Dark Castle, completing the time loop. This is where the episode ends, and once again, it was a great one. A really low stakes and goofy episode with a lot of heart that once again explores a bit of Marinette's guilt and has a really unique villain in battle. plus the Lila plot's continuing to take shape. They're still cooking with gas. And so with all that being said, these have been my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. What did you think of the Dark Castle? Did you like it? Hate it? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.